The good managers are often the one who are also hands-on. So if you look at Elon Musk, right, you can think of him as a very good manager, because he's not only able to manage SpaceX, but he's also able to manage Tesla, Twitter, and then he always gets into new ventures, right? And this is something that I have seen constantly happening in software engineering as well, that those who are actually very good hands-on, or those who are very good software architecture, they happen to be the best managers. And now this is the time when a lot of individual contributors, a lot of people who themselves were just previously software developers, they are themselves also kind of transforming themselves into the manager role. And how come? Because now they are managing AI agents, right? They are managing this little weird creatures that are coding for them, and that might not even follow the rules, let's say, if you don't tell them which rules to follow, which might be able to, let's say, finish the task without taking care of few acceptance criteria, which might be able to, let's say, deploy something to production without making sure that nothing is going to break. And when something breaks and you ask them that there is this issue that is happening in the production, without proper access to all the logs, without, let's say, proper understanding of the thing that they have built themselves, they are not able to debug it properly even. And if, let's say, that is the case, if the case is that there is no going back, that now we will always be in this world where you will have to manage AI agents, and then you could never be the individual contributor where you're coding by yourself, then how do we manage it, right? How do we learn how to be the manager? And one thing that I have learned so far is, like, I would say the first rule of being a good manager of AI agents is to always think in fundamental terms, right? So let's look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk might not be the one who work on the propulsion system and then work on all of the parts of the propulsion system, who don't he himself might not be the first person who works on the body parts, etc., 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 but he understands it at all the things that are happening at the fundamental level, right? And fundamentals are the most important. Now, what are the fundamentals? Fundamentals are how you want to scale your application, right? How fast do you want to deploy your application, and how creatively you want to think about the application. But most people make the mistake at these 3 points, like scale, and then how fast you want to build and how big you want to build. Most people don't think about scale at all. Most people, when they, let's say, give the task to software agents to do something, they wouldn't think that the audience that they have is either like 10 million or just few hundred users, because they are launching a new product. So they could either end up focusing a lot on scaling it before even launching it, or they might actually just underutilize and then not scale it to 100, not scale it to 10 million users before deploying it, right? And only way for you to actually learn how to deploy it for 10 million users is to actually learn the distributed system, is to learn how to handle the database, to learn how to handle the loads, right? Now, how do you handle the AI agents who themselves are becoming responsible for building the systems that can scale? The only way for you, unfortunately, right now, is to actually be the micromanager, in a sense, right? Be the micromanager of an architect that you are building. Now, a lot of people would come to me and say that why would you need to be the micromanager of the agents when they themselves are too smart and when they themselves are scoring to go down the terminal bench, right? Well, the reason behind that is because they just score good on terminal bench. They don't score good in real world. That is the whole point. They are only good at finishing, or let's say making sure that the task that they are assigned is actually properly done. They are not necessarily the responsible part for deploying something in the production. So how would you make sure then that you are able to scale it to 100 users, or you are scalable to 10 able to scale it to 10 million users? The way I use AI agents is that, first of all, I would let's say go through this rant with the AI agents. I would let them know that this is what I want to build, not necessarily in some format. I don't even actually sometimes like to use formats or prompts, the structured prompts, because they just don't allow the AI agents to get into the thinking mode. So generally, I like to have a conversation with them. So I would let them know that, let's say, I would want to build a travel agent application, right? So I would let them know that, hey, I want to build a travel agent application. Then I would start by saying that I want to build a travel agent application for the users in India who wants to specifically go on vacations, right? Now the next thing I would start doing the converse with the AI agents is that now I want to scale this application at the search level where I'm able to scrap booking.com, expedia.com, makeMyTrip.com, and then show it to users. Now, for scaling part, I would again go and then tell them that, hey, I think the difficult problem is going to be for us to collect all of these values from different systems. So best way for us to scale is to actually build out a cache in between where you are able to, let's say, cache some of the values already from Make My Trip for some of the famous routes, so that whenever somebody comes in to search for the trip from Delhi to Goa, the trip is already there. The fare rate we might can refresh, let's say, but at least the general flight that is happening is already there, right? Now that is the critical system thinking that goes on from, let's say, explaining what is it that you want to build as a product, as a feature, and then what is it that you think is critical, right? And only way you come to know about this realization that you might be able to resolve this bigger problem of scaling through creative ways by actually, first of all, I have myself faced this problem a lot of times, and that is the only reason behind why I'm able to actually explain this to AI agents. AI agents themselves have not faced this problem, so it is best for AI agents to learn from somebody who have already made a mistake, and most often it is going to be you. The most often the somebody who has made a mistake and AI agents can learn from is not going to be the AI agents themselves. They don't have a life. They also, I believe, have a short term life. The short term life they would have is spanning just few days, right? They don't span years. They don't have a long horizon memory. So the only person with the long horizon memory is you, and they need to learn from you, and they need to learn from your mistakes. So don't end up, let's say, in this situation where you don't where you completely dedicate the responsibility to the AI agents. You have to learn and think about scale. The second part about the database, right? Now when you assign the task to the when you assign this specific task, let's say, to the AI agents, they might end up, let's say, finishing up very fast because they're very good individual contributor, you can say. They get paid when they finish the task. You can think from that perspective. They don't necessarily get paid when you make the money. They don't necessarily get paid when there are no production issues in the production. So how would you handle the database part? How would you handle the data part? The way for you to handle the data part is by, first of all, asking the question to yourself that, do you necessarily need to actually handle the data at all? Do you need to keep the records on your site, on your application at all? And if you need to, then how big of the database that you need, right? Necessarily, if you are just at the MVP stage, then don't think about scaling the data part. But that is one thing I would recommend. Just think about the structure, that this is the structure I want, and just deploy everything on Vercel or just a Postgres, right? But if you want to scale, then you have to think about the data structure part. For example, in this example, I would need to, let's say, cache a lot of booking.com, Make My Trip, or other companies' values, right, on my side. Now I can cache them in just a Postgres database. That is just one database that everybody will call. Or what I can do is I can add the read replicas, right? What I can do is that I can use one Postgres system that is meant for write, that is meant for, let's say, receiving all the actual customer queries that are happening, and the another system, the another read-only layers that are there where I'm going to cache a lot of values, right? And I can cache them by route, etc., etc., etc. And even if those goes down, my main application will not go down. So that is the data part. That is something that AI agents themselves will not be able to think about. But you have to learn from the mistakes, and what is the mistake, who is the guy who is making the mistake? It is often going to be you. And the third part, the users part, the users part, and I would include one more part into it, the code part, right? Let's say users and code part. So for users and code part, one thing I have often seen people doing is that they are not able to know who their customer is when they are launching the MVP, right? When they're launching the initial feature, and they get into this tendency where they will tell something to the AI agent to develop something, and it will possibly develop it completely, and then they would want to deploy it. And before deploying it, they often have a tendency to actually figure out if it is working well or not, right? And if they have used all of their potential, in a sense, the individual contributors, you can say. And most often they're not, individual contributors think in terms of code, thinks in terms of lines of code, thinks in terms of how much of the PRs they have delivered. And same thing is with the software engineering AI agents as well. They think in terms of how many PRs they have delivered, how many lines of code they have delivered, and there is no way out of it. In a sense, you might end up, let's say, write down something in the skill.md, but it would just end up cluttering the context window, you can say. So you should, by the way, have those rules on your system anyways. So how would you, let's say, build out the system? So the first way for you to build out the systems is that when you ask the system, when you ask the AI agents to develop this application for you, the travel application, ask them that how you are going to scale and how you are going to, let's say, write down the code. And when it will explain it to you, when it might end up, let's say, overthinking a lot about validating the booking.com data, makemetric.com data, etc., 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 and not paying enough focus on the fair part. And when how would you be able to come to know about that? Because you should ask it that, let's say, if you imagine this whole application as a microservices, and if you imagine this whole application as a layer of services, then which service is doing which part, right? That is the first time it is actually going to think about systems architecture at all. Before that, it will just be developing the simple monolith application. And when it thinks about the system application for the first time, it will be explaining it to you that this is the system that is going to take care of the getting the data from booking.com, and this is a system that is going to take care of let's say, refreshing the fare from the booking.com. Now you have to learn, you have to think that, do you really want to pay attention on the data that you are getting from booking.com? Do you really want to validate that? Would you really spend efforts on that part? If not, then don't build the system. The good systems are the lean systems. Look at the Raptor, right? Look at the SpaceX rockets. The best rockets are those which are lean. The Raptor 1 was the one that had a lot of wires. The Raptor 2 was the one that had less wires, and Raptor 3 is the one that actually has like almost no wires, right? In same way, the best systems, the best decision that you can ever make about a system is actually to delete the system, is to not have the system. The best way for you to optimize the system is to first of all ask yourself that you really need the system or not, right? So start thinking in systems, start thinking in microservices, start thinking in how would you be, let's say, delegating which service to which AI agents, and do you really need to spend efforts on that or not? Because the leaner you are, the better and faster you will be able to deliver to your customer, and that is where you will be actually performing the real learning. You might end up learning that people actually don't really care about the let's say, a lot of data from booking.com, but they really care about photos, they really care about reviews, right? Now you end up, let's say, building out the service to fetch the reviews, to fetch the photos, and then you might also end up, let's say, merging all of the photos from booking.com, makemetric.com, and that is where you will be spending the efforts, and that is where you will be spending the focus. And why is that? Because now if there are 100 features that you could have imported from booking.com, now you end up only using 2, and you don't need to worry about 98. And that is being a good manager. The being a good manager, in a sense, is that you don't have to actually manage the bullshit, right? You don't have to manage the thing that you don't really need to manage, and those 98 things was something that customers really don't need it, right? So start to deliver fast, start to deliver lean, rather than delivering massively, rather than delivering a big project. Now a lot of people would end up saying that, why not? Like, if you have the capability of AI agents, and you have the token window as well, and you have $200 budget as well, then why not build big? And the thing that I would tell them is that don't build big, build lean, but build a lot of prototypes, build a lot of sets for that, right? A lot of people don't realize that right now there is no innovation that is actually happening, in a sense that there is no big application that has developed that is completely made out of AI, unless it is in the customer's mode, right? So and the reason behind that is because I believe the lot of problems that are actually solved, that the lot of big applications that are there in the market are there because they are well tested around customer, around products, right, around users. They are the thing that customers actually need. And when you ask AI agents to develop something very big for you, it might end up developing something very big for you, but that is something necessarily that users don't need. And that is the reason behind why you don't see a lot of applications in the market which are big in size and good as well. So you don't need to go big and go wide and then bombard the users with a lot of features, right? What you need to do is you need to just have a one feature. Now we were talking about just photos and reviews, right? Now photos and reviews can be delivered to the users in a different way. It can be delivered, let's say you start to show the photo first to the users, and you might actually end up, let's say, showing reviews to the users first, or you might actually be, let's say, sorting out the reviews in some manner, and then you might want to change the UI as well. You might be having 5 different ways of UI that you would want to deliver it to users, because users really would like to care about photos, the reviews, and how the place is, how the area is, and if they are allowed to, let's say, if there is any swimming pool, if there is any internet services or not, right? So think from the user perspective, and then think about how you can possibly deliver this feature, and how you could deliver this feature in 10 different ways. Now build the 10 different layer, let's say the 10 different branches of your application, right? 10 different MVPs of your application, 10 different prototypes of your application, and go ahead and test it in the market. Go ahead and then figure out, it is really like the A/B testing, right? Go ahead and figure out which one is actually getting the customer attention. Now you have, let's say, first of all, lowered your problem by 10x, because you have not developed the application size by 10x. And what you have also done is you have also moved 10x now, right? The speed also is now 10x, because you are able to deliver the things the 10x faster, because you have already delivered them in the market in one go. And from those 10x you will be able to learn and grasp what MVP is actually working out for the customers, and iterate over it further. So don't go big, don't go wide, go lean, and only go wide when it comes to thinking, only go wide when it comes to connecting the different domains, right? Now leaner, in a sense, I would say, is not really like, just I'm not going to classify that in terms of code, because lean for your product might be 50,000 lines of code, or lean for your product might be 5,000 lines of code. It depends really on the system that you are developing. If it is an AI system, then it might be big in size. If it is just the UI, then it might be smaller in size. Or if it is UI, then you might not even care about it. If it is just the React components, right? Nothing is going to break in the production for that, but it's hard to manage. That's the part. It's hard to design. That is the part. So yeah, so think about all of these things. If you really are going to be the good manager, you have to ask all of these things to AI agents. And that is the point that I'm trying to make. All of this thinking, all of the thought process that we have gone through in this video, this is the same thought process that you should go through with your AI agents, rather than letting them just know about the simple task and then letting them manage throughout. You don't have to be the one who will be guiding them throughout. You have to be the one who teach them about the mistakes that you yourself have made, and think about fundamentals at the end of the day. And that is how you can actually move 100x faster. So I will be making more videos on these topics, especially harness engineering and fundamentals of machine learning, and how do you scale the systems, and how do you actually, let's say, leverage the AI agents to do a lot of code autonomously, but also be able to verify them. So do follow me, subscribe me, and I will see you next video. Thank you.